Royal Ascot is just around the corner. Flat Racing's 5-day extravaganza that features all the best horses from England, Ireland, and a handful of nations around the globe. I'm extremely excited. I'm sure you are all extremely excited at home. And I'm convinced that SBK Ambassador and world-class jockey Sean Levey is similarly excited. Am I right, Sean?
Oh, no, very excited. Very excited. It's the big stage with loads of very good horses and good racing. So definitely excited for it.
Right, you are. Okay, let's get straight into it then. Straight onto your rides, shall we? You start the meeting by partnering Richard Hannon's the Camden Cult in the Coventry. The second race on Tuesday at 3:05 p.m. You've not ridden him before on the track. Have you sat on him at home, and how do you rate his chance in what looks to be a strong edition of the race?
I haven't ridden him on the track. No. He's had 3 runs, one of which he won. It seems to be a progressive colt. Plenty to like of him. He's come out of all these races really well. If anything, his last piece of work definitely showed that he'd improved. So, with all of that said, you definitely give him a chance. But also, look, he's running in a 22 race field, I imagine, and I think everyone's more or less in the same boat. Most of the 2-year-olds in the Coventry have won a race, some more impressively than others. And look, it's one of the most difficult races of the day.
It is. It's a really good race, and it's been hyped all over Twitter over the last couple of days as well. So I'm sure that there'll be a lot of eyes on the Coventry. Hopefully we see a good performance, and hopefully the Camden Cult runs well. And although you haven't ridden the Camden Cult, it's the complete opposite for your next ride on Tuesday, which comes in the Group 1 King's Stand at 3:40 p.m. as you partner Happy Romance. Now, the connection you've got with this mare is fantastic. You've ridden her on 23 of her 25 starts. You've won 7 times together and finished second in a Group 1. How much are you looking forward to partnering Happy Romance once again?
Oh, look, I love riding Happy Romance. She's an absolute saint. She's one of the easiest horses to ride. Very straightforward, got a great mind. And no doubt she's got plenty of ability. She's been found wanting, no doubt, in Group 1s. The closest she's come is finishing second and 1 in Dubai. And trying something different this year, we thought we'd drop a back-in trip back into proper sprinting. And she won the listed race in Bath readily, and the form worked out. I think 3 horses out of that race come out and won. One being the Cal Burke mare that won in France. And I thought her run in Haydock wasn't as bad as some might have thought. She was drawn on the wrong side that day. She was running on a flat track on quick ground, which she probably would have found a little bit difficult because she's only just gone back to sprinting over 5 furlongs. And arguably Haydock would have been one of the fastest 5 furlongs around on that track. And I thought she'd done herself justice, really. She was only beaten 2.5 lengths, I thought, in the end. And going into Ascot, running on a stiff track, you'd up her chances a little bit.
There's a lot made about the track bias last time at Haydock. I know form analysts and pundits were saying how much of an advantage it was to be stand side. But as a jockey, was it literally you had no chance if you were down the middle?
Yeah, the race developed. I come out at 2, so it was very difficult to get, a toe into the race as such. And she enjoys getting a toe into the race. I was stuck up in the wing, and the race, no doubt, developed, up the stand side rail, and it was definitely by halfway looking across, we thought we're definitely out of the ground and we'd be struggling to win that day, But that said, looking back on it, she ran straight and through all the way to the line. And looking back at it, I was a little bit disappointed. But then again, beating 2.5 lengths and finishing 6th, on a track that you were probably definitely on the wrong side of, you could walk away from that kind of optimistic thinking, if you had your own way, you could definitely upgrade a run.
Yeah, for sure. I think there are plenty of horses that day at Haydock that you can upgrade, and the form might not be literal either with some of the winners riding the bias. Let's move on to Wednesday then, and you're booked up on Bath winner Toca Madeira in the Windsor Castle. He also has an entry in the Norfolk. Do you know where he'll be running yet, and how do you rate his chance?
He's quite a fast horse. I rode him in a barrier trial before he'd run first time out, and being by Beta Breath, he's quite unusual for that sire, because he's a very big horse, very good looking horse. And he definitely left me walking away from Lingfield thinking he was quite a nice horse, you know. He ran maybe a little bit green in Bath the first time out, but I think he shown he was a nice horse when he won in Bath the next time out. He doesn't lack any speed, so look, without being I'm absolutely sure, I would have thought he'd go for the Norfolk.
I think Brian Meehan said after his victory at Bath last time that the ground, or Kieran Schumacher, who rode him that day, said the ground wasn't ideal. You just said there he's a nice big horse. Do you think Ascot will suit him better than Bath? And also we're likely to get more good ground compared to the firm that day. Again, should that be a positive for him?
That definitely should be a positive. You know, Bath being one of the highest tracks in the country doesn't have a watering system on it. So with the weather we've been getting, it's been very quick up there, you know. And like I said, like you said, he's a big horse, and he definitely felt the ground a little bit that day. And you know, going into Ascot, you're more than likely going to get beautiful, good ground, and it's a stiffer track. It runs stiff all the way to the line, realistically, and it kind of helps big horses because they're mostly on their back leg, you know, which you know takes the sting out of it, really.
For sure. Now, Thursday's rides include a couple of horses that you have ridden to victory in recent months. First up is Mr. Mistoffelees, who goes in the King George. He'll be a big price, but he wasn't beaten too far in the London Gold Cup last time.
No, he wasn't. Fine big horse, and he on any time I rode him, he felt as though he was learning on the game. Just a little bit mentally backward, and the penny quite hadn't dropped yet. But there's no doubt he's got plenty of ability, and he got a nice low weight in that race. He stays a trip. It's one of those, you know, if he keeps improving mentally, I don't see why he wouldn't have a chance, because there's definitely an engine there.
Yeah, he looks like a typical Huey Morrison project. Moving forward, he'll just progress. Another horse that you've ridden recently to victory is Mum's Tipple, who you won on back in December. He runs, in the Buckingham Palace Stakes on the card as well. Got pretty good Ascot form in the book. Will the quicker ground suit him this week?
Yeah, I would have thought so. The trip is ideal. The track is ideal as well. It tends to suit his running style. I was second on him in Ascot last year, and he went through the race, and I couldn't believe I got beat that day. If he was to bring that performance there on the day, you know, he could run a massive race. But he is one of those, you know, he's probably hasn't got anything up his sleeve as far as where the handicapper has him. But he retains plenty of ability even at this age, and you know, experience is key in those handicaps, I think. So obviously draw dependent and whatever have you, I would be thinking, you know, there's no doubt. I don't see why he wouldn't be able to run a massive race.
Yeah, I think so too. It's a nice each way price as well. Your best chance to win at Royal Ascot this week, according to SBK Traders, it should have been a ring in the Commonwealth Cup on Friday. He's been a model of consistency all year, hasn't he? And he doesn't have too much ground to find on the likely favourite Little Big Bear.
Yes, no doubt. He's a horse that just keeps on improving. You know, if there's ever one that would find an extra few pounds for you, it would be him. On his running Haydock, it was an extremely good run. You know, he's arguably his best form is over 6 furlongs, especially a fast run 6 amongst better horses. But after his win in Newmarket, there's no doubt that he stays 7 furlongs. I think those two things would leave you in good stead. In Newmarket, over the 6 on a stiff track, you know, look at Little Bit Big Bear was very impressive on the day, but I wasn't too far behind him, so I don't see why you wouldn't take him on. You know, wouldn't take him on the stiff track like Ascot.
Yeah, Little Big Bear also rode the Nearside bias, so we've already touched on that day at Haydock, and should have been a ring was more towards the centre. So again, you could potentially mark up that performance. So they're currently your booked rides, but we don't have final declarations for all 5 days at Royal Ascot yet. Will you be picking up any others that you know of as of yet?
Not that I know of. Look, it's difficult. It's difficult to get on good horses in Ascot. You know,
Yeah.
even if you are on a good horse, the racing is that competitive that, you know, even then you're struggling. You know what I mean? Like you can make arguments for a lot of horses in Ascot, and yeah, like I said, it's difficult to get the outside right. As far as the horses that Richard is sending, I think that's all of them we've touched on now.
Excellent stuff. Okay, while we've got you, Sean, I thought it'd be a good idea to run through some of the main races across the week that we haven't covered so far, to see if you've got an opinion in those, who you'd like to ride if you were riding in the race, and potentially who you think will win. We'll start with the Queen Anne, where Inspiral takes on Modern Games at the top of the market, Native Trails in there as well, and Richard Hannon's got two runners as well, Lusail, who you've ridden before, and Chindit. Who would you have liked to partner in this year's Queen Anne?
I would have stuck with the favorite. I would have stuck with Modern Games. You know, he's been there, he's done that, and I thought he's winning the Lockage was impressive, really. Very straightforward horse. I thought the track would suit him, and you know, looking at the horse he has to run against, he's already beaten Shindit, you know, who arguably worked very well the other day. And if there was a little bit more pace in the race, I'd mark up his chances. In Spiral, she does get weight, but at the same time, she's inclined to be in and out as far as her form's concerned. So it's hard, you know, hard to stay by her. You don't know what exactly you're going to get. If you get the exceptional in Spiral that pops out every once in a while, she'd be very hard beat, but it's hard to know. And Native Trail's a very good horse, no doubt, but he seems as though he's been a bit sluggish of late, and I think he'd struggle against Modern Games, especially with that confidence booster after winning the Lockage.
As a former student myself, I look at a race like the Queen Anne. I see the top two in the market, and I see a gap towards Native Trail, who's a numerous Group 1 winner. And I see W2 next to Native Trail's name, suggesting he had a wind-up, and this is going to be his second start since the wind-up. As a rider, do you use that as a factor to think, you know what, this horse might improve now, second off the wind-up, or is that just something that us former students would think?
Looking at how happy Charlie was with the run, with Native Trail's first run, I think he was he's under the impression that obviously the horses run well on the back of a wind-up, and he'll no doubt improve. Mm-hmm. You know, I think he's going to improve with them training him with this race in mind. But at the same time, even with the wind-up, I'd find him wanting a little bit against Modern Games. You know, because he's kind of had more of a he's had more of a straightforward kind of training campaign towards this, you know, especially on the back of winning the Lockage and winning it impressively. You know, ultimately he's going to be running against the same horses.
Yeah, definitely. We've got to touch on the St James's Palace next. We'll be talking about the English and the Irish 2000 Guineas winners, Chaldean and Paddington, who topped the market. But I want to discuss Isaac Shelby. You've ridden him all 5 starts to date, including when you were second over in France last time. Unfortunately, William Buick takes the ride on Tuesday. I presume it would have been nice to retain the ride. I think he's got a very good chance of winning. Yeah,
no doubt. It would have been nice to stay on him. But look at this racing. He's recently been purchased by new owners. I was lucky enough to ride him in the French Guineas, which was a muddy race. You know, one thing about Isaac Shelby is he's got quite a high natural traveling speed, I suppose is the way to say it. And coming down that hill in Longchamp, they probably, you know, they steady up coming down the hill, and he's inclined just maybe to get that little bit keen. But that said, I thought he ran very true to the right. He lost the shoe just before the line, and he was maybe outstayed, I thought, by the French horse who went on to finish third in the French Derby, I think.
Yeah.
So there's no doubt he was definitely outstayed on that day. I think personally, looking at these sectionals and that, he's probably the fastest horse in the field. And my little worry is, you know, would he get away with that in Ascot on a stiffer track? You know, it's a long climb from the bottom all the way around into the straight, and it does tend to suit horses with that little bit more stamina. But that said, you know, the only horse you'd worry about again that he'd be running against, that he'd worry about is the favorite. Mm-hmm. And he has beaten him before, arguably without a jockey on his back, but he has done before. He's got the form and he's got the potential to, you know, to definitely win the St. James's Palace. But there is a few things you'd have at the back of your head.
Sure, I think that's kind of factored into the price as well, as he's around 10-1, whereas Chaldean is 2-1. Yeah. He's rated 114. Where would he sit in your pecking order of the horses that you've ridden in your career to date?
He'd be right up there with the most of them. But I think with him, arguably, not necessarily the penny has dropped, but we just haven't found the exact right remedy. He kind of sits in that situation where he's got pace to come down and trip. And he leaves you with question marks over, you know, how well he actually stays the mile. So,
sure,
you know, he's yet to kind of prove he's a very good miler. And at the same time has shown he's got plenty of speed and you know, you could likely drop him back in trips. So like he's kind of in between there, and he's not going to improve his rating until you know he runs over his optimum.
Definitely. So there could be potential for further improvement from Isaac Shelby. Okay, let's move on to Wednesday's Prince of Wales Stakes. I've seen plenty of differing opinions here, with Luxembourg, Adiyar, My Prospero and Bay Bridge all garnering some respect across social media from analysts. Who do you think will win?
Look, I have to stay with the favourite, Luxembourg. He's a very straightforward horse. And he started his campaign this year with a nice winner. Yeah. You know, they've always thought the world of him. And, you know, you could mark down his competitors for a certain reason, like New Bay, for instance. His best form is arguably on softer ground. I find it hard to look away from Luxembourg, and I think he definitely deserves to be favourite.
Sure. The Gold Cup is a standout on Thursday. You actually rode Aidan O'Brien's Emily Dickinson in the St. Ledger last year. You finished 5th behind Eldar Eldarov in that race, who also runs in the Gold Cup this time around. Do you think that form will be confirmed, or do you think Emily Dickinson can potentially even win this year's Gold Cup?
She's no doubt improved as an older horse. And I rode her last year, and she gave you an impression she would, you know. Mm-hmm. But with that said, the favourite, I keep going favourites. But look, I think Bolding's horse he's a beautiful horse, and he catches the eye, no doubt. And his form is there on that track.
Yeah.
With all that in mind, again, you can see why he's favourite.
Yeah, Coltrane won the Sagaro Stakes, proven at Ascot, and is the informed horse. 2 more races to throw at you then, Sean. First up is the Coronation Stakes on Friday. This is billed as a match between Morge and Tahira, who finished 1st and 2nd in the 1,000 guineas. You rode in that race as well. Do you think it was a good addition of the 1,000 guineas? And do you think the form will be confirmed with Morge beating Tahira again, or will it be reversed?
I think Morge is the faster horse. She proved that last time. She's also a very gutsy filly, which will leave her in good stead around Ascot. No doubt the favourite to each she's a good filly. And it's hard to see anything bar them two being in the first 2, if you know what I mean. And I'm going to have to stay with Morge.
Interesting.
I do. I think she's the faster filly. She's got a really good high cruising speed. She's very straightforward. And in the Guineas, when Taj came down to, you know, to produce a winning run, I thought she got upsides and she battled her all the way to the line, and you know that kind of, you can't forget that really. She just comes across as the one with she got real grit and plenty of ability, and like around Ascot, that's kind of what you want.
Yeah, exactly. Determined filly. I think Tahira actually touched 1-5 that day, yet Morge fought her off, as you just said there. The last race to throw at you is the Queen Elizabeth Jubilee Stakes on Saturday. Artorias for Australia, Wellington for Hong Kong coming across. How do our older sprinters generally fare across those horses from the other side of the globe? And what makes them so good?
I'm not sure. I think they look, and the stats are there, aren't they? The Australians are unbelievable with their sprinters, more so than the long distance horses. You know, I think arguably we're better at our middle distance and long distance horses than we are at the sprinters, and that's shown for years. It'd be difficult not to expect the Australians to be coming over and doing what they do every year.
Yeah, for sure. And Arcturus is going to take a lot of money, and Coolangatta is going to take a lot of money on Tuesday as well. For Australia, they've won numerous sprints over here, so we can kind of assume that they're going to be there or thereabouts once again. Last question for you. Well, it's a two-parter, but I'm going to say last question. Number one, who would you say is your best chance to win at Royal Ascot in 2023? And number two, if you could ride any horse that you're not currently partnering in any race across Royal Ascot, who would it be?
My best chance would think should have been a ring. He's in the right race. He ticks a lot of boxes, and he's always been one to find that little bit more. What horse would I like to ride? Wow, so many.
Yeah.
I'd like to ride Morge in the Coronation.
Morge.
Yeah.
I like it. That's a bold shout. I like that very much.
No, I would like to ride Morge in that thing. She's I just like the way she went about it in the Guineas, and I think she'd be very difficult to beat.
Well, you heard it here first. Coronation Stakes, Morge would be Sean's ride. Thank you very much for joining us, Sean. Best of luck for the week ahead. If you guys at home enjoyed this video, please whack a like down below. Subscribe to the channel as well for all of our great ambassador content and horse racing podcasts as well. For those of you yet to place your bets for Royal Ascot, SBK has a tasty offer for new and existing users. You get a £5 free bet for Royal Ascot when you bet £10 on racing multiples. Don't miss out on that. Enjoy Royal Ascot, Sean. Enjoy Royal Ascot, everyone at home. We sure will. Goodbye.